from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you are with us. It's September 28th, 2021, the end of September. And we're talking about something that I bet most of us have talked about within the last couple of months, days, whatever. We're talking about real estate. Where do things stand right now? Obviously, the market is hot in Nashville. It's hot all over the country. We're seeing housing prices that just boggle the mind. And one house goes on the market and you see multiple offers, and sometimes the house sells for more than the offer. Sometimes, maybe often it does that. And so we're going to talk about where do things stand now? Is it cheaper to rent or buy? What does the future hold? Perhaps we'll even get into that. And this is your chance to call in with any question you may have. So happy to bring on via Zoom our guest, real estate broker Gabriela Lira. Gabriela, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and chat about my favorite subject.
So you work with Compass. You've done this for over 10 years, and you know the Nashville area. Is that right?
Absolutely. That is absolutely correct.
And so let me ask, I mean, we've heard the market is red hot. Is it still that way? Are we seeing signs of it cooling off at all? Or kind of where do we stand right now?
It is still a very hot seller's market. So if you're thinking of putting your house on the market, now would be a great time. But you have to think about, where am I going to go? We're still seeing multiple offers on homes, and Nashville is in third place for homes selling the fastest in the nation. In August, Greater Nashville saw homes selling an average of 8 days.
8 days. And you've done this a long time. How unusual is it?
Over a decade.
Yeah, so how unusual is it?
It's very unusual. I haven't seen a market like this in my entire career. It is just a zoo out there, if you will. It is a very different environment from what we've seen in the past.
So if you put your house on the market, I mean, let's walk through if there is such thing as an average situation. How long is, you're saying the average is 8 days. How many offers do you get? Do you expect it to go for more than you ask for? You know, walk us through what might happen if you were to put your house on the market.
Sure. If you live in one of the hottest neighborhoods in Nashville, you can expect to have multiple offers, sometimes even before the market, you put your home on the market. A lot of times you get offers sight unseen from both locals and also from people relocating here from different markets. You've heard of the California buyers, for example. They are coming here in droves.
Are they really? Is that part of what is driving this?
It's a matter of supply and demand. So before COVID hit, I'd say that Nashville attracted a lot of people moving here for work-related reasons. After and during the pandemic, when employers saw that people could work from home, from anywhere, and still be productive, Nashville, Middle Tennessee became the #1 COVID move destination. So now people are moving here for work, and they're moving here for a lifestyle change. So it's a matter of supply and demand. We just have a lot of buyers and not enough homes to sell them.
And how long do you see this lasting? What will it take to change this?
Well, supply would have to come up, which we're not seeing that happening anytime soon, because after the last real estate bubbles, builders contracted. So they lost a lot of money, and so they started building less, and what's happened is that they're not building enough to keep up with the pent-up demand. In addition to that, millennials, that are the largest generation, are reaching the age where they want to purchase homes. So that's creating even more demand on top of the people that are relocating here for work or for a lifestyle change. So I truly don't see this loosening up anytime soon.
And what is a starter home in Davidson County? I think I feel most sorry for those people that are trying to buy their first home. And so how many homes are there on the market for $200,000 to $300,000? Do you really see that? What could you get for that? Kind of talk about that starter home.
So 10 years ago, when I first started selling real estate, you can buy a home for $150,000. Now that it's almost impossible to buy a home for that amount. So there are still areas where you can buy a home in the 300,000 price range, but that's becoming even more rare. So what we're seeing is a lot of first-time home buyers are moving to the outskirts, places like Pleasant View, Springfield, Ashland City, going down south to Columbia, perhaps. So, purchasing power is definitely less. And if you are a first-time home buyer on a budget, you might want to look a little bit outside of Nashville. There are still opportunities.
So there are $200,000-$300,000 homes, but people are having to drive in from far distances. Is that right?
That's correct.
And what about interest rates? If interest rates were to go up, would that change this? What role do interest rates play in our current situation?
Well, they definitely play a big role. Money is cheap right now. Interest rates are very low if you have credit worthiness. And so as interest rates go up, your purchasing power goes down. And we might see people, waiting longer to buy, perhaps, or even more competition in the lower price points if people can't afford those higher price points anymore due to interest rates going up.
Some people say they're worried this is a bubble. I mean, obviously we saw something like this back before the Great Recession, where we saw people buying homes left and right, and homes they couldn't afford, and prices going up, and then all of a sudden there was this crash. Do you feel like this is a bubble? And what do you say to people who are concerned this is a bubble?
Well, I certainly don't have a crystal ball, but I am very data driven. And the chief economist with the National Association of Realtors is telling us that the environment is fundamentally different from the last bubble. So the last bubble, we saw interest only loans. We saw no income verification loans. And that is why anybody and everybody was able to buy homes. And there was also an overproduction by builders as a result of that. So now we have laws in place to protect us from those funny loans. And the people that are getting financed are actually qualified. So the environment is fundamentally different from the last bubble, and I do not believe, based on that data, that this is another bubble. The demand that's there is from people who can actually purchase a home and have solid financials.
And isn't there a concern now even that people are willing to pay so much for a house that they're paying sometimes more than the banks think it's worth? Are you seeing that? And talk about how that plays out.
I am definitely seeing that. So if you are one of 15 offers for a home and you want this home and need to be in a home by a certain time frame, then a lot of times you're offering over the asking price. Already that seller worked with their realtor. They looked at comps and they said, based on this comparable sales, here's what we believe the market value of your home is. Let's price it a little bit aggressively. So already that home generally will be priced aggressively, and now you have people bidding over that aggressive price point in order to be the winner and purchase this home. So when the bank, if the buyer is getting a loan, the bank sends out an appraiser. The appraiser says, well, your home is only worth this, but your contract price is this. So the home does not appraise for the purchase contract price. And there's that gap. So the buyer is having to come up with that gap out of pocket.
And are they doing that?
Left and right. They are doing that all the time. If you're a cash buyer, you're very lucky to begin with. But now I'm telling my buyers, when you're preparing to buy a house, make sure that you have enough in your savings account to cover your down payment, to cover your closing costs, incidentals like your home inspection and your appraisal, but also enough to cover your appraisal gap if there happens to be one, or enough for you to be able to bid over asking if you so choose to take that strategy.
If you could give us an example. I'm inclined to ask, give us a horror story, but maybe you want to give us a happy story. I guess it depends on your perspective, right? Are you the buyer, the seller, kind of a first-time home buyer? I bet this is just a super hard, frustrating time. You're going out, you're trying to buy a home, and before you even see it, you understand there's already an offer on it, or whatever the case may be. Can you walk us through a recent case study that you're aware of? Maybe it's not a client of yours, but somebody that you know. Walk us through an interesting case study.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a buyer that really wanted to purchase in the Nations. They work very close to the Nations. They thought that neighborhood was hip and cool, which it is, and that's where they wanted to be. We bid on maybe 5 homes, got beat out on all of those 5 homes because the agents told us that there were people that just bid way over what we bid, and we were bidding over asking. We were sometimes waiving our inspection contingency or doing a pass-fail inspection. We were pulling out all the possible strategies to try and win, but there was always somebody who was just a little bit higher than we were. So that was 5 houses that my very patient buyer unfortunately lost out on. So what do we do in those situations? If you have a great agent, they're going to start looking for off-market properties for you. So that's what I did, and we found our buyer a new construction home that was just in the framing stage, and he was able to get in then, not even on the market, and he closes next month.
Wow. Can you give us an idea? I mean, what are you talking about when you're talking about buying a house over there? You're talking about he put in offers, and maybe you don't want to get specific. Give us just a ballpark figure, what we're talking about price-wise, where he keeps getting outbid.
Yeah, so we're talking about over $500,000 here, and we were bidding sometimes $30,000 to $60,000 over the asking price. I am seeing on average people bidding about $50,000 over asking, and that is just my experience with my clients. And so that's what we're doing. For him, we got lucky. We found a house off market that he fell in love with in the right neighborhood, and we didn't have to bid over asking. We just gave the builder exactly what he wanted for the house, and we got in. It actually appraised for over what we paid for it, which is wonderful.
And what do you think? We're going to have to go to break here, but I want to ask a couple more questions. Then we'll start taking calls too. And if people have questions, call in. What do you think about waiving inspections? I mean, as a realtor,
think it's very risky.
Yeah, it seems like it.
It is very risky.
It must make you, I mean, it makes me uncomfortable. You've done this long enough. I mean, what do you think when you're throwing in all of these things, waiving inspections and buying sight unseen, some of the stuff that's going on now, what do you think?
So buying sight unseen, we've been doing for a long time in Middle Tennessee because we're such a big relocation market, right? So a lot of times people moving here for work, they have to be in a house in 30 days because their job starts in 15. So I already had a lot of clients buying sight unseen. So that's not a big deal, or it is a big deal, but it's been happening in this market for a while. Now, the waiving of inspections, that is new to this specific market that we are experiencing right now. It is a very risky thing to do. You never know what you might find once you move in. And so it is not something that I recommend that my clients do, but I do tell them that this is an option that they have, and I give them the pros and the cons. This is very attractive for the seller. Con, you might get in there and find a major issue. So perhaps a middle point to that would be to do a pass-fail inspection. If you do a pass-fail inspection, the seller is not committed. You're not requesting that they make any repairs, but you still get to do a home inspection. And if you find something major, you are able to fail them, get out of the contract, get your earnest money back, and move on.
Interesting. Okay, that's good advice. All right, we're going to take a break. We have a couple of calls, and there are several lines open. So if you have a question about the real estate market, a thought, whatever, give us a call. 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.